Welcome to the Young Crones Cafe, where you can get a magic brew full of all sorts of information, both witchy and practical.
Grab a cup of coffee and join us. I'm Elizabeth, a wordsmith.
And I'm Dave, a modern-day sage.
We are going to talk about various witchcraft and life topics from a slightly more mature perspective, at least most of the time.
Thanks for joining us.
Today's metaphysical kernel of thought is spells. The dictionary defines a spell as the words spoken to generate magic, and while this may be technically true, or how the rest of the world sees it, those of us on the path have our own definition. A spell is the use of correspondences with focused intent and deliberate manipulation of energy in the magical world for the manifestation or get rid of something in the mundane world. It is actually a complex way to say that the use of magic is a way to create change in yourself and the world around you. While there are thousands of spells available in books and, of course, on the internet and various types of social media, we believe it is always best to write your own. Putting yourself into the creation of a spell always boosts its effectiveness. The actual steps to write a spell aren't that difficult and can include: 1. Figure out specific purpose. What are you trying to accomplish or get rid of, and be very clear in your own mind what you are trying to accomplish. 2. Figure out what correspondences speak to you. Correspondences are actually representations of things you are magically trying to create. Remember, there are all sorts of traditional lists of correspondences you can draw from. And don't forget to consider modern items as well. But you have to feel, i.e. believe, they actually correspond. 3. Figure out what you are going to do and how. This is the mechanics of the spell. Working out what you're going to do, such as light a candle and chant, or create a sigil, in what order you want to do things, and how long it should take to not only perform the spell, but how long you can wait for results, are all part of the mechanics. 4. Figure out how to raise energy to power the spell. Will you work with various energies, chant words you have written over and over, dance, drum, or do anything else that works for you? On the path, we tend to go with either 2 or 4-line chants that do rhyme, just because it makes reciting and remembering the words easier. 5. Figure out when to do the spell. Timing is important if you can manage to wait and match up with the energy of the lunar or solar cycle or a day of the week because of the extra energy. However, need is always the most important timing used. 6. Do the spell. While it can feel like successfully completing a jigsaw puzzle with all the pieces fitting together nice and neat to write spells, there is no point if you don't get up and actually do the spells you create. Without accessing the magic, there is no created change. 7. Let the results come from the universe. Don't overthink or obsess about the results of a spell. Sometimes results take time to show up, or you may get an entirely different one than what you planned so carefully to manifest, and it may be a better solution. 8. Do any needed mundane follow-up. There are always things you need to continue to do on the mundane that will encourage your spell work. The old example is doing a spell to get a job, but not submitting a resume anywhere. Trite, but true. Also, write up a record of what you did, correspondences, timing, and any other notes you want to include. Remember to write down the results as well. Choosing to craft and use spells as part of your practice is always an individual choice, but they sure can be a lot of fun and involve as many bells and whistles as you want. If the spell is for something major, the more bells and whistles you can pile onto it, the greater your chance of success. But don't get caught in the trap that all spells have to be complex. Sometimes a quick verbal chant works just fine, especially in an emergency.
You have an awful lot of fun writing spells.
Oh, please, yes. Okay. Especially with modern correspondences.
Right?
You know, I mean, to me, that's the fun part. You're not limited by those traditional uses of herbs and
Sure.
things, but that's beside the point. All right. Let's talk about what is a spell. How about if we start there?
Yeah, you want to open us up with the definition?
We tend to feel that we're using correspondences. Oftentimes, it may just be a rock at that point with deliberate intent involved. And you are using energy in some way, shape, or form, moving it around.
Spell components and
Mhm.
spell craft, certainly.
Yeah. And you're moving energy around on the magical, because that's where magic starts,
Right.
is on the magical sides of things. And then by doing that, we create change on the mundane, which is where the magic manifests,
Right.
in essence. And that's it.
What is the difference between spell and prayer? And before you answer, I'm going to go on and then say, and hymn and chant and evocation and utterance and summoning and any one of another 100,000 words that really would be spell or prayer. And the reason I ask it in that way is because what was the original textbook definition?
That it's the words spoken
The
to.
words spoken to produce magic, to generate magic.
And I think it's
and right now, if you pray as any religious person, you must accept, at least from a universally scientific point of view, that what you are doing is in the realm of the supernatural, and therefore it's magic.
I would agree. Okay.
I truly believe that when I'm having a really good ritual and I've got a couple of friends involved and you've got some really good energy up, and you have been in ritual with me when I've been in this state. I really believe there is no difference in that electrochemically in my body to that state that my next door neighbor is in every Sunday mornings when she sings at the top of her lungs during her church service. I think it's the same magic. I really do.
Oh, I do too. It's just as witches, we tend to like bells and whistles. Sure. And I think that's where spells go beyond just the words.
Well, and this is interesting. Another interesting part of the wordplay here is it's the words are the spell, but the verb is to cast.
Mm-hmm.
The reason that I mentioned that is because Hollywood got it right when they had the kid from The Mummy with "Don't read from the book." The funny thing is, you can have tomes of all of these magical spells, but while they are letters on paper or glyphs or symbols on stones, they are the words of the spell. The spell's magic is not released until they are spoken.
Exactly.
It's the breath or the breathing of these spells that performs the magic.
I think that's part of it. And I think what enhances the words and makes them not more magical, but that we believe in the magic better. How's that?
Okay.
Are the things like the correspondences and working with the energy and knowing that it starts on the magical side of things where we are saying the words or chanting the chant or praying. It's got to land somewhere. All of that magic that we're generating.
Sure.
By saying the words, and if we've got candles burning and herbs are burning or incense is burning, or we've used a particular color candle because it matches the emotion involved for us or whatever. All of that stuff amplifies the words. How's that? I think that's
absolutely. I was letting you find your way around to that, but it's absolutely.
Yeah, all of that stuff amplifies.
From the crystals to the sense to the ritual words that we speak, these are all things that help us be better at doing the magic.
Yes, and it amplifies our expression of what we need to draw from the magical, where anything is possible because it's magical, into the mundane where there are concrete rules like gravity
Right.
that are involved, or the fact that I'm sitting here in a physical body that's going to be 65 in a few weeks, even though in my head I'm about 20 most days. You know what I'm saying?
You know, I was going to say 34, 36.
Well, maybe system-wise, but you understand what I'm saying. You know, so all of that stuff that we use in conjunction with the words helps us anchor where we want the magic to end up.
Well, if nothing else, you never felt more like Peter Pan or whoever else than on Halloween when you actually could dress up and look like and carry the little wand and those little trinkets that we've grown up now that they're gemstones and herbs and crystals and wands and swords and staves and candles, oh my.
Yes.
But they're the same. They're props, whether magical or mundane. They are props that add something to my character's performance in this play.
Exactly. And sometimes, like I said, you can do magic quick and on the fly because you have that flat tire and you're on the side of the highway, you know, or there are times when you want something, you're trying to create long-term change in yourself. And that's where we kind of stuck all these steps in for yourself, is when it's not snap my fingers, I need help, you know, kind of magic. It's
This is going to sound terrible, but I'm going to out myself and say what I used to refer to spiritually as Jesus bail.
Yeah, exactly. But you understand what I'm saying? You know what?
Jesus, if you'll just get me out of this box and home, I'll do better.
Yeah, but it's the same idea. You know, but there are times when you need quick magic because there is a real, honest, short-term need that you need help.
I think those times are when it's the closest to prayer.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, when you think about it. But if you're trying to, I don't know, you want to buy a house. And you want to
see, now you want to write a spell.
Yeah, now you want to write a real spell with some steps to it and some oomph. And that's where we need to talk about the things that we included here.
Absolutely. I have my version of your sort of 8 steps. So
go ahead.
You go along with them and I'll give you mine as the punchline at the end of each one.
Okay. You got to figure out why the hell you're doing a spell. What's your purpose? What's the reason?
What's the point? What do we need?
Yeah, and otherwise, if you don't got one, don't do magic.
Well, see, here's a side note that I wanted to make, and thank you so much for setting that up, because if you sit down because something is calling on you to write a spell,
yes,
but you don't have an idea what it is in your head that you need to write a spell for, write a spell for gratitude.
Yeah, and move on.
Write a spell that you sat down to do some ritual magic practice and don't have anything on freaking fire in your life.
There you go. Yes.
Write a little gratitude celebration. Hey. Don't walk away from the altar. You came here to practice, and be grateful you don't have something emergent.
How about be grateful you can sit there and practice?
Yeah.
And they're not coming with the steak.
But assuming for the sake of argument, I'm going to use a job as the analogy.
Okay, go for it.
So as far as the reason for the spell, I want to get a better job.
Okay, a better job? All right. What does that mean?
Right. Well, what I'm doing is first figure out what specific purpose. What I'm saying is I'm going to use job as my purpose.
Okay. Do you need a job that pays more money? Do you want one that has better hours, better working conditions, a better boss?
Oh, so you want to know specifics about the cause?
Yes. Because you're good. I said specific purpose. A job is very nebulous because you could cast a spell for a job and you get a call from McDonald's.
Specifics about the cause. I'm just writing that in my notes.
Yeah.
Specifics about the cause.
be as specific as you can about your purpose too, because then you can move on. All right, what correspondences speak to you? Correspondences are those symbols, for want of a better word, the herbs,
The props. Yep.
props that, okay, you can't bring a job in the middle of your spellcasting space and say, okay, this is what I want. You could make a list of things that you want and use it as a correspondence, but you can't physically go out and bring that job that you're trying to manifest into the middle of your circle where you're casting a spell, or in front of your altar where you're casting a spell, or out in the park where you're casting a spell. Correspondences are those substitutes for that kind of stuff, or for stuff like emotions that you can't physically have a presence of.
So where I have that one broken down to is select the spell. In other words, what will you use? Are you going to use candle magic? Are you going to use some sort of symbolic crystals?
No.
Are you?
Power on correspondences, things that you could use.
And that's what I'm saying. What will you use?
Yes, and then now you're going to figure out what you're going to do and why. You move on to those mechanics next. That's where you figure out, I'm going to light a candle, I'm going to create a sigil, or I'm going to go from point A to point B to point C, so I have certain steps that I want to do in a certain order for my spell.
Plan the spell is what I have.
The mechanics, the planning out.
This is the plan, the spell.
Yeah, what I'm going to do and how I'm going to do it. And how long?
No, see, that's where it's not fitting my model, because what you're going to do is 2, how you're going to do it is 3.
See, for me, 2 is I figured out
what you're going to do.
The correspondences, the symbols and stuff that I want to use as a focus, as an amplifier for whatever I decide to do that represent what I want to get, what I want my results to be.
So 5 times in that description, you use the word what, and that's why I'm trying to say step 2 is the what.
Yeah, in that respect. And
then step 3 is the plan.
And the how. You plan the how.
Right.
Now, step 4, what energy are you going to use? All spells need some sort of energy to have power in this respect, as an amplifier.
And that's the way I remember this one is power the spell.
Yeah, exactly. Am I going to chant because you like to chant? Am I going to drum?
Do I need a fire?
Do I need a fire? Am I going to dance around in a circle? Am I going to hula hoop like you were talking about with your friend?
Yep.
How am I going to present it? Am I going to ask an element to assist me with their energy, or a genus loci, or you know?
Good reference to the genus loci too, because that's one that I use a lot here in my magic, and I don't realize how much that it is actually the power under the spell.
Exactly.
You know, I have a yard altar that I'm fortunate enough that I've been at for 15 some years. So.
I know. And so, I have done enough ritual out there that whole backyard should be lit up with magical energy.
Oh yeah.
Moving on. All right, now now you figure out the when of your spell.
Time the spell. Okay. And I say it that way because there are some spells in my own practice that I will have set up and ready, but I will actually perform and release on a particular quarter moon.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the when.
Yep.
Yeah, timing. You know, you can, we were talking about energy. You can boost the energy of your spell if you associate it with a certain day of the week, or a part of the lunar cycle, or the solar cycle, or the time of day. There are people who will practice different hours of the day even.
Speaking of that, sorry to interrupt, but I have to shout out, even though it'll go out late, but tomorrow you and I are going to be observing the summer solstice together. So I want to give a shout out to everybody listening. I hope you had a safe and blessed and spiritual experience on your solstice.
There you go. I like that, Todd. Okay. Now comes the kicker. Do the damn thing. Because I like to say, okay, there is no point in going through.
Yeah, at some point you got to say the words and light the stuff and burn the thing and dip your finger in the whatever.
And yes, and it can be very intimidating if you haven't done it before or a lot. But you start to have success with your magic. Maybe not the first time you try a spell. And so what I've learned some interesting things from disastrous failures over the years. But the idea is you do a simple spell and it works. Change happens. And I did that. And you start to believe you can do it.
Attention and recognition. Absolutely.
And it's that positive feedback loop that you and I were talking about before, where it's to feedback on itself because I believe I can do it. My magic is better. My magic is better, and things happen, so I believe I can do it, and so on and so forth. But if you don't get up off your behind,
do it.
And do it.
Say the words. Read from the book.
Well, not even read from the book at that point necessarily, but you know what I'm saying. Light the candle. See what happens.
Right. There you go.
And
then I have it as allow the spell.
Yeah, let the universe do what
make space for it. Start if there's something that you physically are trying to manifest, clear a spot for it in your life, make space for it, be ready to have it around. Start thinking about it mindfully as a resource or whatever it is that you plan on using for it. But I'll allow the universe the opportunity. I know some of us get into the urgency of the moment, but good spell work is about good long-term intention anyway.
Yeah, I think so.
For a good cause.
And sometimes, we think we need it now, translating into I want what I want, I want it right now, God damn it.
Right.
But sometimes the universe wants you to wait a little bit, or we're not number one on the hit parade for that particular request, so we got to take a number and wait a little while. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And sometimes we think we need A, and we put A out into the universe, and the universe says, no, what you really need is Q. And here it is. And sometimes it's letting it be recognized that, the magic worked.
When I personally stop focusing on the things that I need, I start to recognize the things like my roof doesn't leak.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not hungry.
No, exactly. And the gratitude creeps.
I have water,
Yeah, no, and we tend to focus less on, the material and more on changing ourselves into better people, I think becomes our focus of magic when we reach that point. When we recognize and are grateful. And then, like you were saying, you do the mundane follow-up. But for following up with your job thing, you can cast the spell. You've made your list. You figured out exactly what that perfect job is. Guess what? If you don't send your resume out, if you don't show up for that interview, if you don't go to the job fair and make those connections, look on Indeed or whatever the websites are, the social media stuff, you're not going to find the job. You're not going to get the job. There's a certain mundane requirement sometimes. A lot of it are magic, even if it's just to get the fuck out of our own way. Excuse my English.
Well, and I call that follow-up or finish because, I wanted to acknowledge that some spells have a definite fruition, in which case I want to close them and release that energy and acknowledge that the spell worked, or acknowledge that I'm willing to accept what I was able to gain from the spell, which is a different thing altogether.
Yeah.
But there's spells that you want to maintain and refresh, but there's other ones that I think you definitely want to say, thanks, universe, this one's great, and let it be part of the neutral pool of energy for all.
Yeah, I think so. And then other times, like you said, it's gratitude. If you cast a spell because you got laid off last Tuesday and you got to buy groceries for your kids, and suddenly this $50 gift card shows up in your mail.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Yeah, you go out and you buy the groceries and you feed the kids and you say thank you.
Absolutely.
And there's different levels of need, I think, for spells.
And not for nothing, I like to add in there, be grateful we live in a world where, at least in many places, not all yet, but many, we can have these conversations without being labeled heretics or burnt at the stake.
Sure, let's be honest about that one, or stoned, or drowned, or ostracized, or
right, yeah.
And unfortunately, there are still places in our modern world where that stuff happens.
Sure.
And I can be
one of the things that I'm grateful for is where I live.
Oh, I am too. This country may have its issues and its divisions, but we wouldn't have such a quote unquote immigration problem if so much of the world wasn't trying to get here because they want what we got. And I don't mean the job and the car and I mean,
yeah, I will not go there.
No, but we have the ability to speak freely. And that's a gift and a blessing.
We are all the immigrants.
There
were people here when we got here.
I'm not arguing that, but you understand what I'm saying. We're here now, okay, and we are, for better or worse, Americans. So let's be honest and think about how much of the rest of the world is dying to get here and dying on the way to get here because they want to be here, because it's safer. So we'll leave that one alone. I'm done preaching because I'm preaching to the choir at that point. You get it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Get it. You and I will just enjoy the fact that we can sit here.
I can say that I am grateful for having visited 53 countries in 19 states while serving this country. Yeah. And so I know how good I have it.
Exactly. Yep. And when we forget, we have friends who remind us.
Sure.
So with that being said, anything else you want to add about spells?
What do you need in a hurry for a quick spell?
A quick spell? For me, it is knowing my intent. So I have to have a real purpose. Yep. I tend to, can I find a quick 2-line chant? Hopefully it rhymes. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Because I tend to use those little chants said over several times to raise the energy.
You make a little quickie mantra.
I make a little quickie mantra in that respect. I may grab, I don't know, a birthday candle, because that's a quick way to...
No, I just meant you're out and about and just you. Just you, Desert Island.
Desert Island, the words, again, It goes back to the words, and for me, it's about the focused intent as well. Because
I agree.
Words all day long, and have been known to talk to myself when I'm writing, so I am well aware that I mumble, but when, as you said, I focus and say the words.
Yeah.
And I'm aware that my words have power. I think that's the big one. And that's
absolutely.
Part of the
there is great power in our words. Yep.
There is, and even more so when we're using them for magic.
Absolutely.
And not just to make conversation. So with that, that's a good ending right there.
I think I got some work I'm going to use at you. Okay. You go first.
Exactly. May you find mercy and reverence in all things, my friend.
Be safe, be kind, and always be loved.
Practices of the path. These are the hows and whats that we, as practitioners on the path, actually do in our own lives. Everything from the various tools that we work with, as well as those we don't and why, to the solar and lunar cycles, herbs we use, crystals and stones that we work with, candles, incenses, and anything else we come up with that can give an understanding of what we personally do with our magical practices. Tonight we're going to talk about different artful aspects of your life that you can figure out ways to use in your magic.
Sure. Well, when we were looking for a topic, it occurred to me sitting here in a room full of guitars and drums and amplifiers and whatnot that I don't realize how much a part of my magical workings. There's an instrument at every altar that I have, and I'm a big chanter and a dancer and mantras and that kind of thing. So for me, there's a very, very direct connection between music as my sort of artful genre and my magic. And I wanted to talk about, how often we use the two together and sort of acknowledge that.
Mm-hmm. For me, it sounds like you're very into the sound of things as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for me, when I am writing magic to use, because I'm one of these who needs to plot it out sometimes. When I'm not doing like spontaneous, quick, off the cuff magic, and I'm doing, I guess for me, more serious magic, I like to kind of know where I'm going and what I'm going to say and chant and so on. And it's about finding the right rhythm of the words.
So you're absolutely a wordsmith sort of artist.
Yeah, in that respect. And then I don't visualize like people do, in their brains. So I like having certain arrangements of physical objects that I'll play with.
Mm-hmm.
Like line up certain stones when I'm doing a particular kind of magic by size or shape or color or
we share that as well. Yeah, I'm big on like symmetry and having things organized in a creative but orderly symphony, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the stones play nicer together when they're lined up in ways that make them happy. But that's just me, but they talk to me anyway, like, no, I want to stand next to the hematite today. You can put me over here by the citrine, kind of not quite that loud.
It's so funny that you say that, though, because I have a dozen guitar hangers around my house, and different instruments tend to migrate around different times. And when I have an empty hook and I notice it, and I make a decision what guitar I'm going to grab and put on that empty hook, like in the den.
Yep.
The first thing I do is I look at the other two guitars that are already on the hooks in the den and sort of ask, so who do you want to hang out with?
Yeah, no, but it's the same idea, though.
Sure, absolutely.
All of those things, because we use them for magic, and because we recognize that for us they're magical. There's a certain resonance, I think, that goes with it. And if we've used them for different kinds of magic, I think that resonance hangs around. And it recognizes, okay, I'm more comfortable with this as opposed to that.
Well, and I think, too, we respond to some instincts that are either biological ancestry or spiritual ancestry, in that when I first started to really become aware of my own magic as a practitioner, it happened to be a time of my life when I was going to a lot of drum circles and a lot of campouts and stuff like that, where there were communal chants or thumps or some sort of percussive rhythmic group activity. And I found great power from that. And to this day, I've often got like a little shaker, or every altar I have has drumsticks on it, because you never know.
No, you never do. But the idea is that sort of associated power carries forward for you in that respect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there's certain words that do it for me. There's certain stones that do it for me. There's certain colors. I like to color. It's one of my great stress reducers in life.
Right.
Someday,
1,000 different colors of colored pencil, right?
Yeah, it's 1,000 different colors of colored pencils. I started out with a little pencil case or two, and we are now up to 6 storage boxes. No, excuse me, 6 storage boxes, each of which holds 8 pencil cases of pencils. Okay. But no, I am not obsessive.
No.
Really not. And we will not mention that they are all organized by color, so that all
you have that color. There's no question.
Oh, yeah. Every shade of green known to colored pencil hood, I think. But all of them are organized and grouped not only by like greens, they're separated by, different manufacturers of green.
Right.
So different, there's like Crayolas, probably the most commonly known colored pencils that people think of, but there's a whole bunch more people that manufacture colored pencils, and there's differences in shade, even though it says like forest green. I've got about 6 different shades of forest green depending on who likes it. And there I have my little swatches and stuff, and I'm one of these who has to, because a lot of my coloring is done on things that are associated with magic and the practice of witchcraft.
Sure, you will actually take a piece of paper and draw spells.
Oh yeah, exactly, and I will, using these different colors and so on. I mean, they're not for public consumption because I'm not that kind of artist like Sue was, who could draw an entire universe with a black pencil. You know what I'm saying?
Sure, I do.
No, but in the privacy of my own home, I will do that. And like I said, I color to relax, and I have found a whole bunch of, like herbal coloring books or ones that are associated with witchcraft or things I associate with my own practice kind of thing. And
so what I'm hearing is if I could find a crystals and gemstones coloring book would be a good thing for your birthday, huh?
No, I just bought that one.
You witch.
Well, I'm sorry. I've been waiting for it to come out since this is one coloring book person.
I'm going to win this one because I'll end up doing now for your birthday.
Oh, I know. You'll find me a coloring book I don't have.
Oh, no, I'll end up singing you a song now.
And I would love that. But no, I have to laugh because there is a lady named Amy Cesari who lives in Hawaii, and she does, her official website is the Book of Shadows coloring pages kind of thing. Okay. And she has her books at Amazon and on her own website and everything. And she comes out with like a planner every year.
Yep.
That focuses on a different aspect of magic, and she has done an herbal one, and she just came out with a crystals and gemstones one a few weeks ago that I had been waiting since November when last year's planner came out. But
well, and I think it's fascinating that you are so focused on visual art, and I guess the way I would describe the difference between your art and Susie's is you focus on visual art. Susie focused on visual expression.
Yeah.
With her, it was what she needed said when she painted.
Mm-hmm. That makes perfect sense.
But I think it's fascinating that you are so into the detail and the color and the shading on all of that. Mm-hmm. And yet you don't visualize. To me, that's just sort of a miraculous juxtaposition.
I think that's because I will go online, like when I was doing herbal coloring book, I literally went online and Googled these different herbs and like the flowers and so on to match my colored pencil swatches to the picture. So mine is very realistic in that sense.
I understand that. Yep. And that, like I say, it makes sense, the dichotomy of wanting things to be that photorealistic and yet not relying heavily on visualization for, object permanence and those kind of things. Yeah,
exactly. And I think it helps create a sense of object permanence for me.
Well, and you are, and have always been since I've met you, a very literate person, meaning your focus is always primarily on words.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
That's your communication is on words. It's how you work. Yep.
And I can describe things. I can create a word picture of something. Mm-hmm. And write it down, and somebody else could read it and know exactly what I was talking about, and probably visualize off of something I've written, because I tend to be that detailed in my own descriptions because I don't see it any other way except through the words.
Oh, neat. So you literally are able to form the reader's picture from your own descriptive.
Yes.
Neat.
Yes, which is when
I love that for you.
Which is why, for me, that's what I mean when I write my magic sometimes.
Sure, absolutely.
For me, it is a way to cut through the fact that another witch could sit there and visualize in her mind or his mind what they wanted to do or manifest or have happen or experience internally through pictures like that. If
Sure.
I write
You can get your color pencils out and make a stunningly realistic drawing of a pear, and everybody's mouth will water. Sure.
exactly, and I can do that using words. So for me, that is my greatest magic, I think, or the greatest way I use my own art in magic. To me, it is about the words in that respect, more than anything else, and the realistic coloring and, playing around with my stones and hearing what they have to say to me is the other aspects of it. So I don't think anybody's limited by personal limitations or by one thing.
Sure. You are both visual and wordsmithy.
Yeah. In
your magical practices.
Yeah, exactly.
And the more I think about it, I tend to be so kind of primal, rhythmic, or expressive with wood flute or guitar or something like that. But I can tell you an awful lot of things with the guitar that I would never be able to put into words for you.
Yeah. It's a way of sharing the artistic part of it. The art part is how we are able to share ourselves with other people or the universe, I think.
Absolutely. Yep. And that's why I say it the way I did. It's not that the words aren't there, but let me play it for you. Yeah. And that's just part of the way I do my magic. I sing at the trees and I usually hum at the river.
Hey, why not? And I think other people need to find their own ways of expressing that.
Sure.
And ways are limitless. And when we talk about art and being artful, that does not mean if you can't draw a straight line, if somebody else holds the pencil and ruler for you.
I have a very, very, very dear friend that just came to mind, and she spends most of her artistic expression either with a lit color-lighted hula hoop or a tambourine or a ribbon or something like that, and just freeform expressive dance.
There you go.
Which is another beautiful thing that could be woven, into your ritual or your practice or even your daily morning meditation. Instead of doing a sun salutation, you can do a little, I'm going to make today a happy day dance.
Hey, why not? And I think the more we find that creative expression, I think our magic gets better.
Well, and I think it sort of cycles back on itself in that then we'll practice it more and get a positive feedback loop.
Yeah, exactly. I have a feeling in your own way, you could probably write code and have it be magic.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. But there are all different ways to do it. And I think we limit ourselves in terms of what we think of as creative or art or artistic expression or whatever, and the possibilities are endless. You could cook.
Sure.
There are people who have turned cooking into an art, and I've eaten some of their food. It's like when I bake bread for ritual. To me, that is an artistic expression.
Sure.
Because I'm putting the time and care into it. There is a process involved. There's certain...
And I make it disappear.
Hey, there you go, which is the ultimate magic, right? But you understand what I'm saying? There's so many different possibilities, and it gets exciting when you start talking about it. Because we have our own ways.
Find what you do that you love to do, and then find ways to do it with your magic.
That's the ultimate goal. That was a brilliant summation, sir.
Thank you so much, dear.
And with that being said, send us an email or hit us up on our Discord with your Patreon.
Yeah, talk to us. I mean, that guy who does the website work is way behind because he's had some days. But, drop us an email, shoot us a word in Discord or through Patreon or what have you. Just let us know how you're doing out there.
Exactly. And let us know what art you're trying out.
Right.
Before we go, we would like to present you with a tip or trick or witchy hint.
Just something to make your day go better, because we live in a mixture of the magical and the mundane.
It's that time of year for a lot of us where it's vacation season, or the fact that there's more light available because it's solstice season. And we seem to think that we should have a lot more time and energy to devote to all those endless projects that we, as witches or just people, seem to think we have time to stretch our lives to do more, to do more, to do more. And I am here to give you a gentle reminder that that is not necessarily the case. And rather than starting 87 new projects, today might be a good time to reflect, however briefly, to see how many you actually have going on and how many you're going to be able to complete before the summer comes to an end, even though it's just starting on the calendar. The idea is on the path. We know that it is really easy at this time of year to get caught up with a lot of projects and events and so on. And as we try to stretch our days to meet the amount of available daylight, which is actually starting to decrease now that we have passed the summer solstice yesterday, even though we don't know it yet, wanting to be able to finish things. So today, sit down, pen, paper, computer file, doesn't matter what, and honestly list all those projects you have recently started, all those things you have begun, thought about starting, having process from last year that you carried over that you thought, surely this spring or this summer I'll have time to finish that fill in the blank project here. Damn it, I'm looking at my own list and it seems to get longer and longer. It's time to be realistic. It's time to be ruthless a little bit, not with yourself, but with the amount of projects you've committed yourself to. Take a look at that list and see what's really important. Pick the top 5, write it down on a separate piece of paper, and make that commitment to yourself that these are the ones you are going to definitely finish. Now look at the rest of that list. Cross off those that you know you are never going to finish, or now you're sitting here wondering, why did I think this was a good idea? Get rid of those. If you have stuff involved, box it up, put it away where you can't see it, donate it, give it to a friend who might want to try out whatever you thought would be a good idea. Get rid of the evidence, for want of a better word, of all that stuff that you knew you really weren't going to get around to doing. Now, take a look at your list again. You may have 3 or 4 more other things that you'd like to finish left on your list, and put those aside for later if for some reason you suddenly have a burst of extra time in your life where you can get to them. But pin up your list now somewhere where you're going to see it a lot of the 5 that you are planning to finish. Take time each day to work on some of them, or one of them until you finish it, and move on to the next one on your list. And as you finish them, cross them off. You may be tempted to add more things to the list, but don't. This is the voice of experience here, just don't. And instead, balance your time and energy so that you have time for yourself, just to breathe, to sit and enjoy the summer weather. Or in our case, sit in the air conditioning because it's been 95 for the last 4 days. But in the meantime, take the time to work on the ones you need to finish so that you are ready when the wheel turns and we end up in the dark times of the year where you don't have the time or energy to do too much of anything in our area except try to stay warm or suffer through the weather, whatever it is, wherever you are. So with that being said, happy summer, happy solstice. Be blessed in the fact that the light is here and enjoy it. Don't get bogged down with endless projects all the time over the upcoming season, but take the time to enjoy, as they say, those lazy days of summer. Lay in a hammock if you have one. Go sit in a park. I'm personally going to make a trek to a river that runs through my city today and sit by the water for a while because it's actually starting to cool off. So here's my gentle reminder. Don't overload yourself just because the energy of the season makes you think it's a good idea. So with that being said, until next time, may you find mirth and reverence in all things.
Well, it looks like the coffee cups are empty for this week. We hope you join us again next Tuesday. But you can find us at our website, 2youngcrones.com. That's the number 2, Young Crones.
We'd love to have you join our growing online Discord community. Check out our new Patreon presence. Just look for Young Crones Cafe. Through Patreon, you'll be able to make it to our Discord. We are also Young Crones Cafe on Twitter and Facebook.
Until then, remember, we are witches who work with energies to effect change.
We are believers in both immanent and transcendent divine.
We are celebrants of the passage of the solar and lunar cycles.
We are hedge walkers who pass back and forth between the worlds of the magical and the mundane.
We are seekers of knowledge.
And we are walkers of a spiritual tradition we call the path.
So mote it be.
So mote it be.